What's the weirdest rule you had in your home growing up? Cursing Thursdays. You could say whatever you wanted with no consequences. Had someone stay over who knew the rule. Opened my parents' bedroom and said goodnight moth affairs. I wasn't allowed to put sugar in my tea because my mum told me that when you go to prison they don't let you have sugar, so it will makes prison that much harder. 1. Thanks for having so much faith in me, mum. 2. I'm pretty sure you are allowed sugar for your tea in prison. At my friend's house they had a no pizza balling rule. There were 3 teenage brothers and when they ordered pizzas, at least a couple larges, tempers flared quickly when people would try to grab as many slices as they could. The first rule in place was that you couldn't have more than 1 slice at a time, and you could grab another once you had the last bite in your mouth. But one of the brothers quickly figured it out that if you ball up a slice he could fit it in his mouth and grab another one. Hence, no pizza balling. My dad made up a rule to stop my big brother from asking about getting a dog every 10 seconds. We had neighbors on both sides who had dogs, so the rule was that only every other house could have a dog. My brother believed it for a long time. If the dare officer at school shows you something and it smells familiar, say nothing. I will explain it later. Also, if mom's room smells like incense, it is the best time to ask for something. We had silverware with roses on it. Our thumbs had to be on the rose when we used the utensils or we'd have to practice after dinner. Utensils couldn't make any noise against your teeth or you'd have to practice after dinner. My house was a real ball of laughs growing up. I wasn't allowed to make noise. If I spoke above mumble I was being surly. If I was playing it could not be audible outside of my shut bedroom door. If I was cleaning, which I usually was, then I couldn't make noise while doing it. The consequences varied, usually being screamed at, having something thrown just past my head, or having something I valued taken away. My brother did not have the same restrictions. He's always been an avid musician, played video games at full volume, cracked jokes and was generally encouraged to speak up. The only time he had the same rules was when our mother was on the phone, which was pretty often. I don't resent him for being treated better and he frequently advocated for me. Now I have some interesting quirks. I can wash dishes in complete silence. I still leave drawers and cabinet doors slightly ajar. I sneak up on people at work by accident. If people are watching TV with me I have to remember to turn up the volume for them. There are days when I can't handle the sound of turning on the shower or running the vacuum cleaner. I have a dosimeter app on my phone and frequently check to see how much noise I'm making. I even sneeze silently, but I blast the radio in my car and through my headphones. Yes, I'm in therapy. And for people asking, you can't vacuum silently but you can get on your hands and knees with a large scrub brush and brush the debris out of carpet. The answer below as to how to wash dishes silently is accurate based on my experience. Yes, I have been to the said be narcissist sub. It is helpful at times but I am pretty far along in the healing process now. People there are still coming to terms with things I dealt with 10 years ago. Yes, I'm a woman. That was a factor. For sure. I was also unwanted. My mother had already decided to divorce my father when she got pregnant with me. She has implied she wasn't a willing participant in that process, which I actually believe. Also, my brother didn't have it easy. His experiences were just different but not necessarily better. My father was terrible but mostly absent. He died badly a few years ago. I didn't go to the funeral. I don't speak to my mother unless absolutely necessary. Abuse doesn't end when you turn 18. It turned into financial abuse and she was also abusive to my child until I cut contact. My mother had a horrific childhood and by all accounts our experience was an improvement on that. I do think she did the best she could with the information she had. I don't wish her any harm. I had a stepdad for a while. He was clueless, somewhat of an a-hole, and also being abused by her. He still taught me how to function and created some stability. There were other adults who tried to help with varying levels of success. CPS was involved at one point but she outsmarted them. Those limited interactions with adults who clearly cared, had healthy boundaries, and treated me appropriately for my age made all the difference. So if you're witnessing something similar and can't act directly to correct the situation, do that. You are actually helping. We were not allowed to use the front door, ever. There was a metal screen on it with a deadbolt that needed a key for either side. My stepdad kept the key and even visitors had to go to the back through the side gate. Wasn't me but my neighbor. When my dad would come home from work, my friend would have to go home. His parents told him that because that meant it was dinner time and therefore he should come home. Him being a child didn't grasp that portion of the rule. He only understood come home when my dad gets home. This translated in my friend being terrified of my father. If he saw my dad turning into the driveway, he would drop whatever we were doing and sprint home. If my dad would make it home and get out of the car, he would cry and run home. Somehow in his head, my father was bad. It took some time before my friend was comfortable around my father. We weren't allowed to say I am the best or I am the greatest. My dad grew up in a competitive household. I wasn't allowed to wear my hat backwards. My dad thought that it was a gang thing. Mind you, this was in rural Wisconsin in the 90s. My parents are wonderful people, just may not have had the best understanding of the world at that time. That if someone knocked on the door, we were not allowed to move or speak until mom decided that yes, we were home and would accept company. Didn't realize how weird that was until my friend came over and seemed surprised when someone knocked on the door, and I covered her mouth and pulled her away from the curtains. My mom refuses to answer the door for unannounced visitors and to this day will still pretend no one is home if she doesn't feel like socializing. It's even worse when they call her cell phone and hear it ringing from within the home despite every television being on mute and every light in the house being turned off. To answer some questions, my mother has severe bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, so that had a lot to do with this. Also, I never knew so many people did this. Maybe my friend was the weird one, haha. I couldn't recline or lay my body down at all if my boyfriend was over. My mom thought that me laying down would give them thoughts, so I couldn't do it. Once I put my feet up on the couch while my fiance was over and my mom got pissed and thought I was trying to turn him on. I also changed into sweat pants from jeans once because I was going to watch a movie with my boyfriend and she thought I changed to give him better access. I was just uncomfortable in jeans. Also, no Sailor Moon, Avatar, Fairly Odd Parents, Harry Potter, anything with magic or witchcraft. Also never celebrated Halloween and never trick-or-treated. If you come home at night and the door's locked, even if I have a key, find somewhere else to sleep. Can't remember which serial killer this pertains to, but one got a victim this way. A girl came home past curfew and her parents said she had to sleep outside. Then the killer took her from her porch. My memory of this is very vague, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about the details. Fight to the cry. I lived in a house with my grandparents and my grandfather didn't like to hear whiny kids. So if any of us were being a constant annoyance, he hit me. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. He would just tell us. Fight to the cry. Duke it out. First one to cry lost the argument. My father woke up at anywhere between 10 and 12 every day. Immediately upon waking, he would stumble to the bathroom, where he would spend 45 to 75 minutes coughing mucus out of his lungs and spitting it into the sink. He had advanced emphysema because of his decades-long smoking habit. During this time, no one was to talk to him, look at him, or interact with him in any way beyond bringing him Thai instant coffee. I learned this lesson the hard way the first week after my mother married him, because I had to pee. So I opened the door and was immediately confronted with a 38-year-old 400-pound man in nothing but his underwear, red-faced and screaming at me to get the F out of the bathroom. Jeez and gosh were banned because they sounded kinda like Jesus and God, so it was considered subtly taking the Lord's name in vain. Wasn't allowed to say shut up because it was a bad word as well. And then one day my mom told me to shut up. We weren't allowed to celebrate Halloween because it was the devil's holiday. We weren't even allowed to go to school that day in order to avoid the festivities. They told us the Halloween candy was cursed so we wouldn't eat it. In the night we turned off the lights and hid in terror. It was unsafe to go outside in case a Satanist kidnapped us to sacrifice to the devil. Also, Pokemon was considered demonic. Felt bad for watching it, but couldn't resist.